Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has declared a 3-month-long state of emergency in 10 provinces affected by this week's earthquake. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake was followed by a 7.5 magnitude quake around lunchtime yesterday. This was just hours apart, affecting the southeast of the country. The death toll from the disaster, including similar effects in Syria, has now passed 5,000. The World Health Organization has warned that the number of dead could go way beyond 20,000. At least 70 countries have now offered help. Teams are also starting to arrive in Turkey and Syria and looking for many of those still believed to be trapped beneath rubble, as what you're looking at now.
Numbers do not tell us about the perilous situation that many families now face, having lost everything, forced to sleep outside in the middle of winter. It's now a race against time. We're especially concerned about areas where we do not yet have information. Damage mapping is ongoing to understand where we need to focus our attention.
Let's go out to Turkey tonight and speak to Bongani Dlamini, a South African currently living in the country. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time. You are, I understand, a fair distance away from where tragedy struck yesterday morning, but I'd imagine that people, even where you are carrying the heaviness of what's happened.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, despite the fact that we are under these difficult situations right now. This particular incident that happened, with these two incidents, it's very tough. The fact that I'm not there does not mean that it's not affecting me and the people around me. I have a few friends and colleagues that have lost loved ones and friends, and I can feel the heaviness of the situation just from being around them. Just generally speaking, we've been trying to help. At least that there's a number of different points, drop-off points for supplies that these provinces that are affected might need. So I am affected somehow, and we're trying to help in any way we can.
And Bongani, for your friends who've already, as you're saying, lost friends and loved ones, how were they notified? Because I know there was an issue with communication in the early hours of the tragedy.
Yeah. So just generally speaking, especially because this country is known to be susceptible to these incidents, there's apps that are put in place. So when such things happen, if it were to happen here, I would go onto the app if I'm a survivor and try to alert my family members and the government. That's how some of the communication was pushed out. But also there was quite fast response to these areas from other cities or within the same cities, provinces that were unaffected. People did run over to those places and communicate quite quickly to them. With my friends, particularly the one particular friend, they could not reach their family members in any way, but they did find out from the people that were in the same area or the same neighborhood that they unfortunately could not make it. So that's how they found out.
And the country is currently going through a week, 7 days of national mourning, which reflects the scale of the tragedy. Schools have been closed. How has the rest of, not the rest of your life, but how have you been impacted as far as that? Because there will be areas that close, people staying away from work in some cases.
Yeah. I am fortunate enough to be able to work remotely. I mean, I do go to the office twice a week, but I'm able to work remotely. So economically, or in terms of my well-being, generally speaking, I'm not affected by the situation, but I do imagine a lot of people that are around me, the common people around here, have been affected and they will not be going to work. So this is going to further exacerbate the economic situation here that was brought on, of course, by the economic situation that's defined this part of the world, and of course the global pandemic. But for me personally, it's not affected me much since I can work remotely.
People in the southeast of Turkey and in the parts of Syria affected by the two quakes yesterday have experienced more than 200, in fact, aftershocks in the hours since then. For people like you, even watching on from a distance, is there a nervousness about being in Turkey right now?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Especially now. Since I got here about 5 years ago. My Turkish friends have been telling me that there's an expected earthquake to take place in Istanbul, particularly where I am. You know, same kind of incident that took place in these areas. The first one that happened in Istanbul was back in 1999, and it was quite huge, bigger in scale, I believe, than the ones that took place. So, given that the fact that these have happened, now the people that are around me are scared that it might happen to Istanbul. And Istanbul, like I said, I pointed out, is quite susceptible to these. So I'm scared as well. Everyone is scared around us, around me, and in this area. I'm thinking of leaving, but it's not easy. I saw just yesterday how packed the airport was, so I imagine the logistics of trying to leave would not be easy. So that is that.
And the icy conditions, I mean, also aren't helping for anyone who'd want to get out of the country either momentarily or just to relocate because they just don't feel unsafe. I know the airports were basically shut for a few hours as well yesterday.
Yeah, I imagine they reached capacity, perhaps even went over capacity, so it's understandable from their own standpoint. It's impossible to take on that many people. When I saw the videos, I knew for sure it was not possible, so I didn't even try to book a ticket.
And your family here at home, they must be quite anxious. Did you get many calls yesterday morning as the rest of us woke up to news of this tragedy?
Many calls, many messages. Just as we speak, I think I've received 2 more texts on WhatsApp asking if I'm okay. Of course, they are concerned. A lot of people are watching the news and they see that the situation is quite difficult. And if for some of the people that are back home that don't know exactly where I'm based, they see this, they see it's happening in Turkey, so they fear I might be affected by the incident itself. But I am in Istanbul. They are concerned, they're showing concern, but I want to assure them that I'm okay, I'm safe. All is good.
You said you considered leaving yesterday when we first got a sense of what had happened in the southeast. As things stand now, have you changed your mind about that? Do you see yourself staying on in Turkey perhaps for 5 more years?
Well, first of all, we do have electricity here, so I'll stay.
A sense of humor, even in crisis, a true South African.
Honestly, it's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful city, particularly. I've been to a number of cities. I mean, in South Africa, we do have Johannesburg, we have Cape Town. These are great cities. I've been to Madrid. I've been to other cities as well. But there's just something about Istanbul. Even when I go home and visit, I find myself in Bloemfontein, I find myself in Joburg, whatever. I always think about Istanbul. So the long and short of this is, yes, I do still consider staying on, despite the risks of earthquakes happening.
Bongani Dlamini, South African living in Turkey, thankfully quite a distance away from where the tragedy struck yesterday. Keep safe, Bongani, and best wishes to all your friends affected by this catastrophe.